Welcome to Outdrive, folks. I'm your host, Cliff Callis, and each week I'm bringing you actionable marketing insights you can apply to reach, connect with, and convert rural American consumers. Outdrive is powered by Callis, a full-service advertising agency with a focus on marketing rural America. Callis offers a wide range of integrated marketing services, including website development, search engine marketing, social media, video, and digital. We develop strategic and creative campaigns to build your brand and your business, and you can learn more about us at ecallis.com. Now join me in the front seat as we head out on the road to success. Let's go. Hey folks, welcome to Outdrive. We've got another great story to share with you today about life and work in rural America. You know, in our world of marketing, things seem to change every day. From adopting new technologies and best practices to challenges and opportunities for the agency and our clients. It's one of the things that makes this business so fun. In fact, change is so important that we embraced it in our agency as one of our core values, and that change is good. In the world of healthcare marketing specifically, change is inevitable. And that brings us to our guest today. April DeGraff is a senior advisor in marketing and communications for University of Missouri Healthcare. She is also a former intern at Callis. In this engaging conversation, we discuss the challenges of positioning a leading healthcare provider, which is also a teaching institution. We talk about AI and what that means for marketers. We also get into successful marketing strategies and tactics, branding and KPIs, as well as April sharing some tips and lessons based on her years of experience in the healthcare industry. It's an episode you're not going to want to miss. Welcome to Outdrive, April.
Hi, Cliff. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's Monday morning after a Chiefs win. Great weekend. And, harvest has started here in the Midwest, which is a good time of year for me. I like that. And I've certainly been enjoying the opportunity to regroup with you, reconnect, and I'm excited with what we have to talk about. We've got a lot to talk about because you're a healthcare marketing professional at a senior level. I want to talk about what that means, and we should get into branding and communications in general. I know you have insight on measuring results and using KPIs, and sometimes that's challenging. I want to talk about that and want to hear, marketing lessons from someone with your experience and expertise. But before we go down any of those roads, let's start by having you tell our audience just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I grew up in Polo, Missouri, which is a little dot map off of I-35, and it truly is rural Missouri. So you talk about rural Missouri and Sedalia of 20,000 plus, and I'm like, my town was 500 people. So I knew anyone and everyone. So grew up in a tiny town and made it out of there to college. And throughout my career, I have been in marketing for about 15 years, and 10 of those years have been with healthcare marketing, which is just like the niche area that I found that I love so much. I'll stay in this forever because I think it is so interesting. But about 10 of those years have been with the University of Missouri Healthcare. And a year and a half of those, I sort of took a sabbatical, if you will, to work on the agency side with a healthcare marketing agency. And that experience was incredibly important for my career as a marketing professional. And I got to experience through the clients that I worked with so many different things that I wouldn't have been able to do had I stayed in one location. But it also really showed me that I liked being embedded in the healthcare system more. So that's what I do for work. And then personally, I married my college sweetheart, and we have twin 5-year-old boys that keep us running wild.
Fun. So when did you first notice an interest in marketing?
I think most of my life, I've always had this drive to look at situations and sort of think, what if we tried something different? Or like, why is the problem what you say it is and not something else? I guess it's just like an innate curiosity to understand how things and people work. And so I've always loved the process of learning, as nerdy as that sounds. Like I get really excited about learning new things. And so all of those things sort of just led me to a public relations degree in college and sort of went from there.
Well, learning is not nerdy at all. If you ever stop learning, that's nerdy. And I agree with you about the curiosity. I think curiosity makes a marketer really good at what they do because they are looking at different perspectives, different ways to do things. And I think that's an important trait to have. So you and I share the same alma mater, Missouri Valley, as does the other Cliff in our lives, your Cliff. How do you think your liberal arts education prepared you for what you do today?
So I mentioned I came from a small town. And so I think one of the things about Missouri Valley that I loved and helped me thrive was the smaller environment. It was quite a bit bigger than what I came from, but it was still small enough that I got to build great relationships with my track coach and my professors. And so I felt like I had that community to help support me in this new place. I also feel like, at the time, Missouri Valley College really valued diversity. And so coming from a town with zero diversity to a place with that had students from all over the world and different perspectives and experiences was really eye-opening for a girl from a town my size. So loved that. And then again, the size just really, my professors got to invest in me. When I was thinking about this, and I don't even know if you remember, but whenever you came to speak at Missouri Valley at the Maastricht Institute of Entrepreneurship, and I looked at the list ahead of time and then I was like, oh, there's someone from a marketing agency coming. Like, I want an internship there. And so I mentioned it to one of my professors, and he was like, here's what you need to do. You need to contact him ahead of time. You need to schedule it. You need to arrange it. And so we did all those things. And then you spoke. And as soon as you spoke, like 50 students were like, right next to you, like internship, internship, internship. And my professor like gently guided you over and was like, this is April, who you scheduled time to talk with today. So I got this amazing opportunity and internship, and I got that because my professor. So I benefited from that.
Well, thank you. You were a great intern and would have loved to have kept you for the rest of your career if that would have worked out for both of us. And that was a great opportunity for me too to speak in front of a group like that. And you made a very strong, positive first impression, which led to an internship. Now, fast forward to the University of Missouri, and you are at University of Missouri Healthcare. For those people who don't know what that is, tell us.
Yeah. So MU Healthcare is an academic health system based in Columbia, but spread all over mid Missouri. And academic medicine is a bit different than your typical community system because, in addition to providing healthcare, which I think we do in a great way, we also have focus on research and education. So I've really bought into the idea over the years that this is really the best of medicine. I personally want doctors who are so on top of the latest in their fields that they're teaching the next generation of doctors, that they're constantly in the know about the latest and greatest treatment options. And so, you read it with the rate with which medicine is changing means that a role in academic medicine and keeping everyone updated is so important. And so there are some really important parts of MU healthcare that I've gotten to work really closely with in my time there. So throughout my entire time, I've worked directly with our children's hospital. And so one of the really amazing things we got to do in June was grand open a brand new, beautiful children's hospital. And so, in general, I think it's just a really exciting time to be at MU Healthcare. We just opened up the Children's Hospital and Birthing Center in January. We fully integrated with Capital Region Medical Center in Jefferson City. And so, it's an interesting time marketing wise to see what that looks like from a positioning perspective, and then from a clinical care perspective to sort of widen our net and influence.
We'll get back to that marketing positioning here in a second, but I want to talk just a minute about the partnership between University of Missouri Healthcare and Bothwell Regional Health Center and their rural residency program, because I think we've been into that 2 or 3 years now, and it is churning out some really exceptional physicians.
That's great to hear. One of the things that I think we'll see with healthcare and with MU is we're really focused on bringing healthcare to people versus people to healthcare. So a lot of that means growing the physician workforce, the primary care doctors in many rural areas, including in Sedalia at Bothwell, and placing primary care providers where they're needed in rural communities. And it's Sedalia, but it's also Boonville and Mexico and all of the areas of the Midwest. And so we have probably 20 plus rural primary care clinics, and we're just continuing to invest in communities and provide them the care that they really need.
Well, you brought up the positioning standpoint, and I could see where that might present a unique challenge because you're trying to attract patients to be treated at MU Healthcare, but you're also doing the educational teaching side of it. How do you position MU Healthcare?
Academic medicine is our differentiator and it is what makes the world of medicine better. And so that is what we've leaned into for a really long time. But I mentioned it was an exciting time for marketing too, because we are still really finding our footing for what that looks and sounds like with the integration of Capital Region Medical Center. And so we still believe in the benefits of academic medicine, but it is sometimes harder to get buy-in from people about the benefits. I think you hear teaching hospital, you'll hear a lot of people say, I don't want to be seen by a student, or I'm not getting the best care. And some of those perceptions are what we're up against. The reality is, you have more eyes on you, you have more opportunities, you have more resources whenever you're working with students and teachers. So, with the integration of Capital Region Medical Center in Jefferson City, it's a very tight knit community. And so, I'm not sure academic medicine is what trips their trigger. And so right now we are, they have strong ties to the community. So we're looking at what does MU Healthcare look like as an academic medical center that is deeply ingrained in communities? What does it sound like? How is it positioned? So that's work that we're doing right now. So we haven't even finished that work for me to be able to provide any insight on what that is, but it's exciting work. And when I look at healthcare in general, I think that's what we'll see a lot of. Even the University of Kansas, they've purchased might not be the right word, but have acquired in some way Olathe Health and Liberty Hospital. And so these, again, are community health systems that this national academic health system has purchased. So I think you'll see a lot of this like competing positioning, and there's a way to put them all together, right? They're both important. You have to be what you need to be for your community and you have to advance medicine. It's just how are we packaging it all together?
What makes the role of a marketer so fun, doesn't it?
It totally does. See, it's a challenge that I'm curious about. And I'm just like, it's not scary to me as much as it is interesting.
When you said such an exciting time, and I think about being in the middle of football season and what an exciting time it is to be a Tiger. And because the Tiger football team is off to a great start, does that impact what you guys do from a communications and branding standpoint?
I don't think that it does. It provides us with some opportunities for sports sponsorships, certainly, and targeting different crowds in a different way. And certainly our affiliation with the University of Missouri and that stacked MU is a brand asset that we lean into. But we leave the Tiger to the athletic teams, and we don't really use that. It's not a brand asset for us. I'm a bit more partial to our children's hospital mascot, which is TJ. He's like a baby tiger. He's much cuter, in my opinion, than Truman, but Truman's cool too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, talk about your role as a senior advisor. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting title, right?
It's a great title. It fits you. Although you don't look that senior to me. I don't know.
Thank you. So I get to lead strategy across the organization, working and advising with executive leaders on both the School of Medicine and the MU Healthcare side, because an academic health center, they work really together on these big projects like positioning MU Healthcare in this community and academic health system, like grand opening a brand new children's hospital. And so I get to focus on some of those like over system priorities. And then I also work with a talented team of marketing strategists that works on the service lines, or what I would call the ologies: cardiology, neurology, otolaryngology. And so we have strategic marketing plans for each of those service lines that help support our overall brand. And then I think my next role or biggest role would be, we've done a lot of intentional work across our teams to bring public relations, web, communications, and marketing and all of the things in together and making sure we're working together. And so as we continue, as those lines blur of where communications ends and marketing and PR, I'm looking across teams to see how we can best work together efficiently.
What do you think it is about your background or your personality or your persona that makes you good at what you do?
I really think it is the curious and the learner. I mean, I read all the time. And one of my New Year's resolutions last year was to read 52 books, and I read 65.
Wow.
Like I read all of the time, and I have a lot of good mentors who send me books all the time. So it's like being open-minded and curious and never being afraid to ask questions. And that seems like such a silly thing, but I can't tell you how many meetings I'm in where like our business strategy team is saying words that no one understands and everyone's just like, "Yep, sounds good." And then you're like, "What does it mean?" And everyone is like, "Actually, I have that question too." And so it's like actually not being afraid to ask questions because the people around you too are just waiting for that person who's brave enough to say, in other words, help us understand. So that is really it, just being curious. And I think the feedback I get from my leaders too, I think we gave, like superlative awards in the office. And it was like the I have an idea award is what I got. Because healthcare marketing is interesting, but I find influence from all over, marketing. And so I love like deconstructing campaigns. And so like you'll see a campaign and I'm like, okay, what was the insight they had? What was the problem the company had? And so I think it just constantly makes you think and apply those things to what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree with that. So you talked about how all the different components of the marketing are being integrated together. Has that been a challenge? I mean, have they kind of functioned in silos where they've almost had to compete for resources?
I don't know that we would say competing for resources, but there have been challenges in resources in terms of like time with prioritization. A marketing team maybe can prioritize a campaign and the public relations team has some crisis things going on and they can't do. There were varying levels of priority that maybe caused some misses, just to be fair, about where we could align best. So, yeah, I think in the past, those two have been pretty separate, and we are working intentionally with new leaders and new philosophies to bring everyone together. We all do marketing. You can call it communications, you can call it public relations, like the label. We're all doing the same thing to support, we're all different tactics to support the overall goal. So, I think when we come at it with that mindset, it levels the playing field. So, everyone's like, yes, we're all working together. And we all have a piece of the pie. And I think it's helping us work together.
Well, I think that is a mainstay. It needs to be a mainstay for any successful marketing program is the integration. And I know that, even in our agency where, we started as an ad agency and then we started doing PR, but we really weren't a PR firm. And then, that evolved into web and digital and all that. At one point, the buzzword in our industry for agencies was integrated marketing. And in fact, we even pulled out a DBA for Callus Integrated Marketing. But what we found is kind of going back to some of your discussions in your groups where people don't really know what a word means. Nobody knew what integrated marketing was, so we just dropped it. It's still what we do. It's what you do because it all reinforces each other. It makes everything stronger when you do it together and in cohesion.
Totally agree. We have doctors and people who we work with, and every problem is a marketing problem. It's not like this. I'd like the public relations team to tackle this or the website team. Everything is a marketing problem. And so that's what we're using. That's what they're saying. So we really think about it that way. Like we all do this thing.
You've talked about already some of the challenges you have right now with positioning and bringing on new clinics and new partners. What are some of the things you're trying to accomplish with your marketing and communication plans?
Obviously, we're supporting the growth initiatives of IMU Healthcare. We have I think, a really good business planning process every year where we look at service lines growth opportunities and where the market is headed for that particular modality. And we help them reach their goals based on all of that information. And so that looks different for every single service line. So it's obviously to support volume growth. But my favorite part about it is when we come to a meeting with data or an insight where we uncovered a patient experience challenge that the service line might not have been aware of, that helps us walk through a problem. So creating like a resource that they go to when they have a problem versus this like, oh, our monthly meeting with marketing is this week. Let's see what social media posts they did. So it's really like providing value. And I think that we worked really hard for several years on that. And I think we're getting to that point. So I think the other thing would be, creating like a more holistic approach to our strategies. Every day someone comes and is like, no, 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 this problem can just be solved if you do a social media post, you know? And so it's like making sure we're hitting like the right audience, the right message, all of the things, and sort of educating our leaders and service line leaders about what that could look like if we do it through the lens of market orientation, which is sort of my like marketing soapbox.
You're a strategist. What strategies are you using right now that you think are most effective?
So when I think about strategy, it's like a series of choices, right? Like who, what, when, all of those things. So for immune healthcare, I would say our strategy is positioning academic medicine as our advantage. And overall, we want to be the health system that comes to mind when someone needs healthcare, not specifically orthopedics or women's health or OBGYN. I need a healthcare need. I know Immune Healthcare has it. So it's that's the brand, right? And then we have the acquisition of the service line. But more tactics is I think what we're talking about. And then so then that would really depend on the goal. So for Children's Hospital, there was this time where we were at our old building and we were building the new building and we moved our inpatient unit and there were lots of concerns that people would think we didn't have a children's hospital anymore. So our strategy was keep children's hospital top of mind regardless of whether we can say look at the shiny place. So we got to do a lot of fun things with that. We wrote a children's book but with our DJ, our children's hospital mascot that we gave out in all of our pediatric clinics and every community event. We ordered like 10,000 books and we got rid of all of them. Patient stories, kid interviews with doctors. And so strategy was just like keep Children's Hospital out there talking about how it's open before we do the grand opening.
One of the things I think about in healthcare marketing is that nobody really wants to go to the hospital, right? So, how do you confront that? How do you position yourself in a way that makes people decide, I'm going to go here, even though I don't want to go?
So my mentor would say it's mental availability. You have to create mental availability or salience, right? So what do they say? It's like 5% of the people that you're marketing to are actually in the market for what you're marketing. So there's a lot of people you're marketing to that this is just noise. So it's being there in building mental availability so that when they think healthcare, they think MU healthcare. And that's really it. It's that simple. It's the reason why whenever you think soda, you might think Coke or Pepsi, or physically seeing Immune Healthcare in the community, seeing it online, hearing about it in the news. It's really just about getting the name out there. So it's the first thing you think of whenever you have a problem. And another problem that challenge we have at Immune Healthcare is a lot of people in our consumer perception surveys, we continue to hear like, I'll go there when it's really bad. We don't get like that first line of defense or like we have a robust primary care network. We have lots of other specialties that you can go to without a referral, but there's still this perception of like, when it's the worst, I'll go to new healthcare. So that's something that we have to fight and challenge too.
Yeah, I could see that being kind of working both ways, really, because, if you're the best, we're going to go there. So I do see that challenge. That is unique. That is very unique. I like the phrase mental availability. I don't know that I've ever heard that, honestly. And I can relate very much to that because we recognize in our business that not everybody needs an advertising agency today. But we want you to think about us when we do. And all we ask is talk to us when you're at that point. And you do have to stay in front of people and present a positive image and do all the other strategic things to capture that top of mind mental availability. I like that.
Yes, it's the same philosophy. So we look at things like, immune healthcare. A lot of what we do is community impact and just investing in the community. So in Colombia, they have an amazing farmers market. I don't know, is voted like the best farmers market for their size in the country. And so the pavilion, we sponsored the pavilion where that farmers market is. So every Saturday when people from Colombia are going to the farmers market, there's a big MU Healthcare logo on it. Mizzou football, if you've been to a Mizzou football game recently, hopefully you've seen our logo and in-game sponsorships. And so it's like being where the people are so that when they need healthcare, they're thinking about us.
Yeah. And that's being where they are, in real life, but there's also the being where they are digitally, right? Because your media has to be wherever they are using, which are whole other challenges, I think. Well, you talked earlier about sort of justifying your existence by going to meeting with data. What kind of data are you collecting? Do HIPAA laws impact any of that? How are you measuring results? I know that's a long question, but I'll let you go wherever you want to with that.
Yeah. So I'll do the ROI first. We are getting much better, I think, at ROI. And so there are several campaigns that have what we would call a hard call to action, a hard CTA, schedule an appointment, take this health risk assessment, where we can take a look at people who have completed those and we can follow them to say they've scheduled an appointment. And so we can directly attribute marketing initiatives or population health initiatives with clinic appointments. Or tangentially, I guess you could say we can look at like when was marketing in flight and what happened to clinic volumes overall. That's another way we can look at it if we saw spikes. There are a lot of things like as soon as you turn on TV, you can see, whenever we're talking about, I mean, TV is the best for awareness, right? So you turn on TV and you could see those calls and that call center go up. And then TV goes down for 2 weeks and they go down. So there's a lot of correlation that we can do that way. I mentioned the consumer perception survey. So we use our consumer perception survey to look at our brand funnel and salience and all of those things to see if we're increasing people's preferences for academic medicine or at least buying into the idea that it's a positive thing versus a negative thing. Because we have seen that shift over about 10 years. When we first started asking that question, it was like, don't want it, don't need it. And to finally seeing people realizing that there is definitely a benefit to working with an academic health system. So those are some of the ways we look at ROI. HIPAA is interesting, the Health Information Act that protects consumers' information. There are a lot of marketing tactics that we do not do in an abundance of caution. So retargeting ads is a good example. It's the reason why whenever you put something in your cart at Target and then you don't buy it, you get a message from Target that's like, don't forget to buy this. That's a retargeting ad. There's a lot of happening right now at the federal level and legislative level about whether it's legal or not to do that. And it's kind of going back and forth on that. And we've just decided in an abundance of caution, it's not going to be something that we do. So there are some things that we choose not to engage in just to ensure that we are keeping everyone's information secure and safe.
Yeah, you have to do that. I think about testimonials. Testimonials are so powerful and effective when done appropriately. Do those violate HIPAA laws, or how do you use testimonials in a way that doesn't?
They can if you don't do them right, but we have a really great process for that. It's all about permission. So it's making sure that the patients understand. So usually what that looks like is a clinic is like, I have this really amazing story. Here's the generic information about the outcome with no patient information. And when you say, yes, we'd love to do that, contact the patient and make sure it's okay for marketing to contact them. So then once we get permission to contact them and we get permission to hear their story, then we make sure we have appropriate signatures and everything and that they know exactly where the story is going to be for how long and just being really transparent. I think that's what it's about. And once you get to know those patients, they kind of become like your friends. And so it's like, I'm not going to do anything that I wouldn't do for my friend.
And I've been involved in developing some of those campaigns over the years. And yeah, they do become your friends because they have such a great story that you kind of are drawn into that and you want to maintain that relationship and tell their story authentically in a way that people will relate to it, I think is where the power is at.
Yes, totally agree. The Children's Hospital grand opening, it's going to be one of those resume things for me because I just thought everything that we did was so cool and unique for it. But we had a number of patients that we had at the grand opening, and we featured in one of them was this little girl who loved Taylor Swift as much as I love Taylor Swift. And so like every time we met to talk to them, we like bonded over our friendship bracelets and talking about Taylor Swift. And at the event, she was like my shadow. She was just like there hanging out with me and we were taking pictures and her parents. So they have like a lasting impact on your life. And in healthcare, sometimes you can hear only the bad things about what happens in healthcare and the patient experiences that don't go great. And we get to hear a lot about that too, because we have our public relations team. But like hearing all of these, it's so good whenever you get these stories that are like this changed my life or it really saved my husband or, Michaela wouldn't be here if it weren't for you guys. That's really special.
Yeah, it is. We're at a great time for marketing. Heck, in my career, we've gone through the digital revolution, but there's a lot of cool things continuing to happen right now. And a couple of our staffers just got back from MACON, which is a national artificial intelligence conference for marketers. And I haven't even got debriefed yet, although that's supposed to happen pretty quick. What's your perspective on AI and the use of it in marketing?
Yeah, I have a healthy level of skepticism, I think, about AI. We embrace AI in terms of like getting things started and some sort of like directional things. And I think it has some practical applications on the creative side. So that's where I could see it more jumping in terms of creative and coming up with images and stuff. But I'm just not convinced that AI can yet compete with like human insights and emotion and like curiosities that lead to better solutions. So, I think we'll always need thinkers that are human. And so I was talking with our manager or director of content about this podcast and she said, "You know, April, we tested one of our content pieces against AI. We uploaded interview, a mock interview with a condition and stuff, and we asked AI to write a patient's story based on the information. And then we like had people look at those two stories to see which one was better. And the human written one, it pulled out the emotion, it named the condition, it just did a better job than what AI did. So I'm not saying it won't get there eventually someday, but today I think that you still need human touches and feelings and all of the things.
I agree with that. And you think about it, the people, the person are directing the technology, right? I mean, we're telling that technology what to do by feeding it the information that it needs to do its thing. And so I agree with you. I think there's always going to be that human direction of the technology, the tool to make it work, and then have it help us do what we do, make it better, enhance it, whatever. But I agree with that. And, hopefully it never gets to the point where it replaces the humans because that's a really scary thought. So going forward, looking forward, where is marketing going in the future?
I thought about this in terms of healthcare, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier with I think the challenging of positioning is just going to continue to be something you see as we see rural hospitals get acquired or affiliated with larger healthcare systems across the country. That's a trend. So I think you'll continue to see struggles and challenges with how what that looks and feels and sounds like. And what I'm kind of excited about is I see marketing getting more brought into the product P of marketing. I see us getting brought in more in terms of like designing patient experiences. And, I think all healthcare systems, and I see MU too, like there is this drive to be consumer centric and we want to do things with consumers, but the default is still like, what did the doctor want? And sometimes that means they're not thinking about it from like the patient's experience. And I've seen more frequently us getting brought in to help with like flow questions and what number are we calling? And then what happens? And then what happens? And so I'm getting really excited about that. And I think as healthcare evolves, like the competitive advantage is going to be the patient experience. Is it easy to access? Is it seamless? Like we're living in a world of Amazon and Apple, easy. Everything they do is fantastic. Healthcare has a long way to go. Please know I'm not saying that we're Amazon and Apple yet, but that's going to be the expectation and we all know it. And so I think in the future, that's what we have to look at. And you're starting to see that with some healthcare systems. MU is working on implementing like a check in process virtually where you can do that before you go. And people have done that probably for years in other industries. But because of things like HIPAA and patient security, it just takes longer, I think, in healthcare. But again, our marketing team is involved in what does that mean? What does it look like? What does the text message say? Is it a text message? All of the things. And so that's something that I'm getting excited about.
Yeah, that is very exciting and is very advantageous to look at it that way because a marketer does think about things typically from the other side, not from the internal side, but the external side, bringing that perspective of how am I going to react to this? What is going to work? What is going to get my attention? So I think that is a very exciting thing that, yeah, some people are pretty good at it right now, but I think a lot of people, most people still have a ways to go.
Agree.
Well, April, I've really enjoyed visiting with you today. I knew that I would. I'm not going to let you off the hook that easy, though. As an experienced marketing professional, share with us some of the lessons you've learned over the years.
Yeah. So I think the first one is I'm a big fan of Mark Ritson. He's a big marketing guy, and his thing is market orientation. So his thing is like the moment you step into an organization is the moment you can no longer think like the consumer. And I think that is so important because everything changes when you look at it from that perspective. It's asking consumers if this is the way they want it. And so I really think coming at things with that outside perspective is the most important thing that we can do as marketers, because we tend to, we get caught up in like our demographics and our, here's what we know about Gen Z and here's what we know about this. And we just assume that that applies for all situations. And so one of the things that we've gotten better at in new healthcare, especially, is like going out and trying to talk to people about the experience and what they're looking for in XYZ program to help us understand how things should be positioned. My marketing soapbox is strategy first, tactics second. I think I mentioned earlier, like we just still fight people coming in assuming they know what a solution is. So if we would just do the social media post, all of our problems will be solved. Or, our internal joke is like everything can be solved by putting a doctor's face on a billboard, like no matter what. So I think that is one of my important things, like understand the problem and then make the best educated idea about what the solution is that's going to make the most impact. And then think about the tactics you need to do that. Working at the agency, what I learned and what I hope provides comfort for a lot of people is like we all have really similar problems, whether you're a big health system or a small health system. There's too many marketing experts in every organization that just know exactly what you should do without identifying the problem. Requests for tactics when you haven't determined a problem. We're all really spread thin and trying to find the best way to prioritize our time. Lots of requests for marketing expertise with zero time to do it. So, finding a way to prioritize your work is going to be one of the most important things that you can do for you and your team, because your team has to all be working in the same direction.
That's all great advice. Folks, I hope you're listening. You mentioned growing up in Polo, Missouri. Your definition of rural Missouri.
I mean, you have a Starbucks, Cliff. That is not my rule.
It is pretty big time. But April, I think it's more of a mindset. We feel like it's more of a mindset. I really even think that Kansas City is rural America. Even though it's a big city, it has all the ambiance and perks that you find in living in a big city. I still feel it's a part of rural America. And so when I say those words, what thoughts and images come to your mind? Do you go back to Polo or do you come to the Sedalia Starbucks?
Yeah, I think I do go back to polo. I think about my parents and the people that I knew from polo who are living all across America. But I do think my husband grew up in Sedalia, so I think of, his family too and all of those things. And so I think for me it's more about like descriptors. They're very proud. They're a proud group. They're proud of their lifestyle, their living, their town, their school. There's a lot of pride in rural America, independence as well, right? There's like this healthy level of skepticism about outsiders, about big, about something I'm not familiar with. So those sort of all play together in this like tight knit community, like if you know through someone, they're probably okay. But if no one can vouch for them in my group of people here, you have to prove yourself before I trust you. And so that's sort of what I think I'm probably still like that, even though I haven't lived in a rural community for several years, but that's what I think about.
Yeah, you can take the rule out of the girl, but you can't take the girl out of the rule, or vice versa, whatever.
Yeah. Even when my friends get together, I'm friends with some of the girls that I still went to high school with. And maybe that happens in larger areas, maybe not. But, we meet in Kansas City and our kids play together. And so I don't know. It's just that like staying connected and community.
Yeah, community is a big word. Well, thanks for being with us today. Any last things you'd like to share with our audience?
No, I think for me, it's always be curious, and like being a student of marketing is really like my motto. I love reading, so I'm just constantly learning and challenging. And that has actually been really hard for me. So I'm a petite woman in an industry dominated by men. And my questions and my curiosity can be challenging for people because it's like rapid fire sometimes, and it's like, just give me a minute." I still don't think we're like completely ready for women who can rapid fire question and curiosity or like that. So be a student of marketing so that you can back that up whenever you ask the questions. And I've had really good mentors, men and women, who have taken that driving curiosity and helped me channel it in ways that helps me lead teams and contribute to an organization. So find good mentors and never stop learning.
Great advice. April, thanks for being with us.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Cliff.
Folks, thanks for listening to Outdrive. I hope you have enjoyed our visit today with April DeGraff, Senior Advisor of Marketing and Communications at University of Missouri Healthcare. Come back again next week, and I'll take you down the roads of rural America where it's heaven on earth.
Thanks for taking a ride with us on Outdrive. This episode is complete, so head on over to ecalis.com for more insight you can apply to help drive your business growth. And be sure to sign up for our free monthly e-letter, Outthink, for even more helpful content about marketing to rural America. Have a great day and keep on driving.